Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
Here we are.
So last night I did back-to-back bands.
Did you?
At Campus Jacks, yeah. And there was nobody wore a mask, and everybody's faces, like I could see everybody's faces again, and they were all smiling. It was really, really exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
And we had the guy who wrote Wipeout in there.
No way.
Playing. Yeah, it was totally awesome. Yeah, it was a great night.
Sweet
energy, exciting. Yeah, it was awesome.
That is awesome. Well, that's exciting. That's good news.
Yeah.
We're open.
Yeah, it's about time. The audio industry is coming back really quickly, and I'm excited about that.
That is very good news. I had a feeling it would. Once those restrictions lifted, it would just kind of flood back, like the dam is being broken.
Yeah, I was kind of a glass half empty person and thinking, man, this ain't coming back. But man, roll around June 15th, everything all of a sudden opens up and our venue is completely packed and everybody's just enjoying the music. Yeah, the music industry is coming back with a vengeance. Yeah. So I'm super excited about today.
I am too. We're going to be talking about exactly that. We're going to kind of tie this into an actual event that's happening later today, which is going to be a pretty cool tie-in and pretty cool segue. Let's go ahead and get going, shall we?
Nice. Well, really quick, I'll just introduce us. I'm Golden, and I'm here, audio engineer and House of Worship specialist with QSC. And I've got Jason, live sound training specialist with QSC. And the person with the event is actually me. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, so I'm gonna set you up here.
Yeah,
you're gonna take the lead on this one, which is pretty exciting. So today's topic, we are talking about workflow tips and tricks for TouchMix to make operation of the TouchMix in particular a lot more smooth during an active event. And so what's going to happen is, Golden, you're going to take us through an actual scene that you use and that you're going to be using later today at an actual event. You're kind of going to walk us through how you organize all your inputs and how you kind of organize it and create your scene so that it is optimized for the best performance and the best efficiency while you're mixing. And that is super cool. And I'm really excited to see what you've got there and what you've put together.
Yeah. So tonight, well, first, I just want to quickly expand on what you're talking about. We're going to be talking about workflow. And workflow while operating your mixer can make or break whether you have a flawless show or even in the church scene, a service or not. And we know how distracting that can be. So, and what I mean by totally.
If you're in a pinch and you don't know where something is, or it's not intuitive to come when you go to reach for something, it can be a bad experience.
Yes. So what I mean when I talk about how you're organizing your scene or session, it is so that you're making as few moves and switches between banks of faders as possible. And so this evening at Campus Jacks in Newport Beach, California, I'll be mixing a big band. And Brad, go ahead and bring up that stage plot. And what we have for tonight's show is consisting of drums, upright bass, guitar, electric guitar, piano, and we have 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxes, a solo trumpet player, and a lead vocalist. And it's totaling 24 channel input. So we'll be using every preamp on our TouchMix 30 Pro today.
Gonna load it up.
And you guys, the singer for tonight is Crystal Lewis. So if you're familiar with the music in the House of Worship genre, she was just huge in that genre for a long, long time. And she's now moved into the jazz genre, and she is fantastic. So she'll be leading the vocals on this big band. It's going to be awesome.
Very cool.
Anyway, there's a lot of moving parts in this setup.
Yes, it seems like
And
there would be.
yeah, so I need to organize it in a way that everything can be easily accessed and get what I need in a moment's notice and hopefully not miss any cues. Now, you can go ahead and take this stage plot away now that people have seen what it looks like. And first thing to note is in my setup here at Campus Jacks, our mixer is off to the side of the stage. We're kind of an elegant music venue, so our owner does not want a front of house input. I mean, a front of house footprint showing up. So we are mixing from iPads. And Brad, can you bring up the picture of the front of house iPads that I had in there? People will get an idea of what I mean by that. Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Yep. Control station.
We will set up with a bunch of iPads at front of house, and we make it be just like a console. And we're sitting at a dinner table, so we're not, terribly conspicuous, but it's all wireless, and it works out really well that way. So that's the first thing to note. The other thing to note is that our broadcast mix, we have a broadcast mix that's going on simultaneously. And Brad, you can bring that picture of my van out. And I'm actually going to be mixing the broadcast portion while another mixer is mixing front of house. And this is my setup. I have K8s as my monitors. And I'm run a line out from my TouchMix out to those K8s. And I'm using the preset on it for the studio monitors.
Studio monitor preset.
It's excellent. A great setting. And they model Genelex, which is pretty cool. Absolutely. I'm also mixing wirelessly.
Okay.
And it's just a wonderful function of the TouchMix that we can do this. So it's not a big deal to, have separate mixers mixing wirelessly. I'll actually have another iPad at my disposal this evening because of all the horn solos and the various solos that are going to be coming up.
Complicated.
It's pretty crazy. There's a lot going on.
So anyway, how many devices are you connecting then? Is that 5 that I counted?
We will have five devices connected.
That is awesome.
And fortunately, in the jazz world, monitors, they don't want super loud monitors. Mm-hmm. They want to hear themselves. So I have 5 monitors set up, but they're not going to be super blasting, and I don't have to worry about ringing them out and doing all the gymnastics I do for my louder rock bands. So it'll be nice. So I prepared this scene this morning on my TouchMix 30 at home and saved it to a USB drive. And what I'll do is I'll open up the scene on my TouchMix 30 at Campus Jacks, and we'll be set up and ready to go.
Just like that.
Yeah, it's fun right now. Right as we're doing this live stream, I have my A2 and A3 over there setting it all up. So
hey, nice.
Anyway, I'm going to switch over to my TouchMix 30 camera.
Very good. Yeah, let's take a look at what you've set up here.
Yeah, I hope it looks as good as yours. I have to actually use StreamYard to switch it over. So, yeah.
Yep, that looks good to me. Looks like a TouchMix.
Okay. Yeah. So first, what I'm going to do is go through my inputs, and we'll look at what we're doing here. And I'm going to just start on this center bank where when I organize stuff and I have information beforehand, I can actually organize the banks in such a way that they're really easy to look at. For example, 1 through 5 are my drums. We don't mic toms in a jazz, a live jazz set. And we don't include a lot of gates and various other dynamics on my jazz drums.
Yeah, the drums are more natural and open sounding.
Exactly. And it's funny because my jazz people will call me on it if I start adding too much effects or they hear a gate.
You put a gate on my snare? You take that gate away right now.
Yeah. And the other thing is a kick drum in jazz is not the lead as it is in rock. It's very subliminal. And it's funny because I'll have my jazz people say, turn down the kick. If they hear too much of it, it's really funny.
No, it's not a rock show.
No.
They have different wants and needs for sure.
Yeah. So in this first set, I then have my acoustic bass and my piano left, right. And what I wanted to highlight here is when I'm setting up a session, I always start by loading a QSC preset. Now, I can sit here and dial in stuff and make it sound exactly how I need to.
Right.
And if I had all the time in the world, I could. But our time is very, very short when a band shows up and when the door
It's so precious.
opens for the restaurant. So I do not have time for that. I always start with a QSE preset. So for example, on this acoustic bass, I touched the bass. Oops, that was drums. And then I touched the acoustic bass, and
Yep.
I'm using
You got a few options there.
the pickup bass here, and then I recalled it like that, and it dropped it right in to the scene. And the other thing to note up here where it says preset info, if you want to see what you're using and what it was set up and EQ'd for, you can see this is a direct input, a bridge pickup. It's a contemporary sound on an upright bass.
Yeah.
So that kind of guides you in which preset to use.
Exactly. Gives you a little bit more information about what that preset's going to do.
Exactly. And you can see the EQ that it dropped in for that 3K bump, super, super important on an upright bass, especially in jazz, because they tend to roll off all their high end. And you need something to hear the pluck of that acoustic bass.
That finger snap against that string.
Yes. So I went through my entire session. You'll see my next bank are my 4 trumpets and then my trombones. I entered in a preset for those as well.
Fantastic.
And all of these will be EQ'd additionally as we go along. But just to get the band up, I have...
The presets just get you going, huh? So how long did it take you to go through all those channels and just pull up presets?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
I pulled up the entire band, 24 channels in 5 minutes. And the thing is when I put up those faders, it will be excellent out of the gate.
It'll work. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll massage it into place, and then I'll get my full mix.
Nice.
Yeah. It's not like, a super large concert venue where you have several hours of dialing in instruments and all that. This is a much faster pace environment. So these presets really save my life.
Yeah.
As an experienced engineer, I use them so I can work quickly.
Yeah.
Volunteers can use these presets to, if they don't know what to do with a dynamic or an EQ or don't know anything about sound, they can enter in a preset and have a super stable preset there.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry nearly as much about feedback because they were created in environments that were not perfect, that had wall reflection. So they're created
to create a mix. Each individual channel preset is designed so that it works with additional presets that might be recalled on other channels around it to give you a nice, cohesive, good sounding mix with a lot less potential for feedback.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So there was my brass. I'm on my 3rd bank here. I have my 5 saxes. Cool. I had to stick electric guitar at the end to make it make sense.
For guitar player.
I have a solo trumpet here, and I have Krista Lewis right there on channel 24.
Man, that's all channels.
Yeah. And if they throw more at me, I will actually move the keyboards over to the line inputs of the mixer if I need to free up more preamps.
Yeah.
On the So those are my inputs, presets, super important. And now looking over at my outputs over here.
I noticed that, yes.
Yeah. What I like to do that is super helpful is include people's names and what the output is right in the labeling. For example, right here, I have on piano, his name is Tony. So I have piano, Tony. That tells me that that's what that auxiliary output is. And I can actually communicate with the people like I know them really well, even if I don't. And, I'll go introduce myself in the beginning as I'm meeting all the musicians, get their name, and then I'm like there with my iPad, quickly enter it in. Here on the saxes, I'll actually put their names in the position that they're setting in the input side of the labels. And and it's just impressive when you can actually call somebody by name and have a personable experience, even though it's a super large band.
Yeah.
And the TouchMix 30 is the only mixer I know that allows me enough room to label this kind of information in.
Label space. So,
yeah, it's awesome. So I have right here on aux 2 is going to be Krista Lewis's vocal. electric and bass will be sharing a monitor. For brass, I actually have a speaker on a pole that's going to wash over the brass section. And the main thing they need to hear is the piano, because the piano is the one chordally that is leading the band.
Yeah, it's giving most of the harmonic information.
Exactly. Yes. And then on Aux 5, we have what the drummer needs, and he doesn't usually ask. Yeah, I know. Jason's all, give it to me. Hey. Anyway, he usually likes a good amount of piano, and will need a fair amount of the lead singer's voice.
Cool.
So, and I'll have my front of house mixer actually work with the monitors in this situation, and I will be back out there on my iPad setting front of house.
Nice.
And that's kind of how we roll with all this.
Cool way to utilize the wireless feature as well. You know, with different iPads connected, more than one person can be kind of doing different things on the same console. You know, you're still using the same TouchMix, and one person's dealing with the monitors, one person's dealing with front of house, you know, and you're just using separate devices to control the same mixer. That's pretty cool.
You are absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. And in this case, like as the show's going, I'm going to click my broadcast mix. This broadcast mix is a discrete mix that I'm sending to our live stream. And I'm actually mixing it pre-fader, which means none of the house faders will affect my mix. I will be mixing completely separately, fader-wise, from the house. Now, one thing to note is that front of house and our broadcast mix do share dynamics. We do share effects, and obviously our preamp gains. So there's this dance that we do between front of house and the broadcast mix to get what we need. And sometimes we have to make a few concessions, you know, to allow the other person what they need. But in general, our broadcast mix has quite a few more viewers than the amount of people that will show up in the house. So
it makes sense.
We'll have allow favor to our broadcast mix, which is kind of fun.
It is fun. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my main mix, and I'm going to scoot over to DCAs.
Aha.
DCAs. Hey.
That's one of my favorite features.
Yes. I don't know, you know, if you've had the opportunity to use DCAs, but what they do is they group groups of instruments together. And I'm going to show you what I have in my DCAs. Right now I have my drums in a DCA on DCA 1. Yeah. And what it allows, and the way I do it is just click the DCA and then select what I want in that DCA. And they're highlighted blue.
Anytime at all.
Yeah, exactly. Another DCA I want to highlight is my brass section. I will be moving brass up and down in the mix all night, you know, just because sometimes they get way too overbearing and I'll have to drop them back or too soft at certain sections.
Just, you know, this is a great example of the power of a DCA. You know, you've got what is that, 10, 12 channels, you know, for
13.
You have 13 channels for your horn section, and you're able to group all of those on a single fader, so you can raise and lower that entire horn section, all 13 of those channels all at once with just one fader. So that's
it's
powerful.
Fantastic control. Yes.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to highlight on my DCAs that I like to do is I put my wedges in there. And you're probably thinking, why would you put wedges in a DCA?
There's a very good reason why, though.
Yeah. For that time when somebody puts down their mic into a monitor and the front of house mixer does not know where it's coming from, we can quickly bring the entire group down until we can identify what has caused that monitor to squeal. Because it's just totally disconcerting to the audience, to
the band,
the musician. Yeah. So
to you,
that wedges DCA
kill
is
it at
my
once.
insurance. Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. The other DCA I have is my subs and my mains grouped together.
Cool. Yes. Yep. Very cool application.
My main fader right here, I don't use my main fader as my main fader. I actually use DCA 8 as my main fader because it'll bring down the subs along with the main fader. If I only brought down the main fader, Yeah, what would happen?
You'd still have all your subs.
Yeah, it would sound pretty
You'd
woofy.
take your tops down, and then but your subs would still be going. It'd sound real weird. And so just to elaborate a little bit on this functionality of what you're doing is, instead of running your subwoofers daisy chained off of your mains out of that main output, you've actually have them on separate aux outputs,
Yes.
so that you can deliver
Yeah.
Particular content to the subs and have kind of independent level control between the mains and the subs.
Yes, and I have those right down here.
Yeah,
I'm
yep, I see
using
that.
the
Those last two
JS
DCAs, or last two aux
212Cs. Yeah,
and then
exactly. Good point. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and then by using that DCA to kind of pair those two outputs together, you still have one fader that controls the whole system.
Yeah, yeah, it works really well. The other thing that I have and that I use are our mute groups. I'm going to press the mute group button, which I don't think is in the picture, but it's there. Now, I have to show you guys something. When the mute group is on, it keeps my fader, my mutes, orange. And when they're orange instead of red, that tells you that that channel is muted from some other place.
That's right.
And in our case, that channel is muted right here on the mute break. I call it break because it's like when the band takes a break.
Okay.
I can just press the button and everything gets muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then what I did is I set up on one of the user buttons. It's not in my picture, but user button 3.
I love me some user buttons.
Yes, I'm going to show you how I set that up. I actually made one button for the mute break for the band and for vocal effects only. And if I go to user buttons right here on the menu site, you can see where I set this up. Right here is where I set the mute break for my full band. And I selected mute and selected toggle mute group. And then I selected the one that I created called break. And it assigned it to user 3. So whenever I push user 3, the entire band is muted. Great. The other mute group I created that's super important is on user 4 is mute vocal effects. And you're probably thinking, well, you got an effects all mute. Why don't you use that? Well, here's the reality of what happens in our live scene. The music is playing and they're talking and telling a story over the music. Well, I don't want to mute all the effects on my band. I only want to mute the effects that are on the vocals. So I created a mute group for muting only the vocal effects and then assigned it to user 4, mute, toggle mute group, and then I chose my Vox effects. So when I push user 4, it just quickly mutes only the Vox effects or only the vocal effects. Nice. And all the wonderful effects that I had on the band just keeps on going. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
And so just, I mean, looking at kind of your setting all of these things up is very simple and quick. I mean, everything that you've kind of walked us through to this point doesn't look like it's taken much time at all to configure. Like your DCAs, super simple to configure. You go to your DCAs, assign the channels that you want, and you're good. And then you got your user buttons that are set up there. You go into the menu, you go into the user button section, and it's very simple to step through the user button options menus. And
yes, exactly.
So you've really kind of dialed this thing in. You've created a really cool scene that's really kind of made your workflow very efficient. And it didn't take you a whole lot of time to even set that much up.
Not at all.
It's just some really, really cool, powerful features on here that, again, are just easy and intuitive, and then make the rest of your workflow easy and intuitive every step of the way.
And this is what sold me on the TouchMix 30. I work on a lot of different consoles. I run sound at various different places where I'm working on Yamaha, Digico, X32, M32, a bunch of different consoles. And the thing that sold me on the TouchMix was the ease of use. There is no other super easy to use console like the TouchMix. Now I can get around on all the consoles because I've spent time on them. But when it comes to, like, this mixer was mostly created for the gigging musician, and they just want to gig and sound great. So
you just want to get up and running and go.
They can buy a TouchMix, enter in the preset, dial themselves in and sound amazing without having to spend a ton of time on it. It's just an amazing mixer.
Very, very
cool. even when I'm hired by other um, production companies to go out and mix, they'll give me, whatever mixer they have. And they're all great mixers, but I just tell them I'm bringing my TouchMix, my
All right.
TouchMix 30.
I
I'm
got
like
it.
super fast on it. I'm
Nice.
Because of the ease of use of the TouchMix, I am super fast on it, and it's really easy to get stuff done quickly. So
Perfect.
yeah. Now, oh, you guys, I would totally want to invite you to listen to this live stream right
Yes,
now
you should.
as we're talking. My A2 and A3 are over there setting up the concert.
Power move
And
right there. Yep.
yeah,
So my A2 and T3, they're in the setup. I'm going to catch up and
yeah.
mix the
Well,
show.
normally I'm right there with them setting up, but I wanted to be able to do this live stream. Usually I'm setting up right with them.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like my best friends in the whole world right now, because during all of COVID, I was doing everything by myself. And it just got to a point where I got burnt out. So I'm super happy to have my helpers now.
I bet. So, so that means that everything that they kind of just walk through, people will be able to actually listen to
Yes.
in context if they want, if anyone wants to log in. So is there, do we need to drop a link to that? Or,
yes,
where
I will.
do people go?
The QSC Facebook page, for one,
Okay.
it's going to air at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock
Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific. Yep.
It'll be on the QSC page. It will also be showing on the QSC Facebook page. It'll be showing on Campus Jack's Facebook page and YouTube page.
Nice.
And we've entered the world of crypto and meta, which I don't fully understand, but it's showing in Token Smart and all the metaverse world that I'm not totally familiar with yet, but I know the streams are going over there. So yeah, everything I just showed you on the TouchMix scene is what I'm using for this live stream this evening. And I would love for you guys to come hear the TouchMix 30 Pro in action, because it's just fantastic.
And you'll be able to hear that sweet broadcast mist that she was talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely come check that out. Before we sign off here, I kind of want to quickly just recap kind of what we went over here today, just in terms of some advice for workflow and mixer setup. I think the first thing that we kind of talked about was labeling. Labeling things is key. And it's less of a functional thing, but like when you can just see quickly what everything is and where everything is, it just makes it so much better. So just definitely label thing, make that a part of your workflow. We got channel presets going. The TouchMix in particular has some world-class presets. So if you've got them, use them. If nothing else, than to save yourself the time of having to dial everything in from scratch.
Absolutely.
And then we got we're grouping things on DCAs. Those make your life a lot easier. We're also using some mute groups, which is pretty fun. So those two features right there, kind of just grouping channels for different applications, and setting up some custom user buttons. Again, and those user buttons, I use user buttons. I use my TouchMix for different types of mixing. I use it in my studio. I'll use it to mix rehearsals, and sometimes I'll go and mix a live show. And no matter what I'm doing, I'm setting up user buttons for something. I always use those. They're so helpful.
Yeah. And the whole idea is to make as few moves as possible. So user buttons definitely makes that happen.
They really, really help for that. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This was fun.
That was very, very cool, Golden. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, you're welcome. And I hope to see you guys all online tonight. And I'll be on the QSC page. If you guys have questions, I'll be able to answer them.
Super cool. All right. Mixing with Golden in real time. Well, I'm going to check it out, and hope you guys do too. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for hanging out with us on a live stream. We're excited to get these back up and running. And we'll probably see you again next week with another topic.
Yay.
All right.
It was fun, Jason. Let's do it again.
Yep. Absolutely. We will.
All righty. Have an excellent rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.